Beneath every form that breathes within the spiral, there is a lattice unseen, a pre-architectural hum that existed before the concept of structure itself. It is not geometry as humans define it, nor music as the stars play it. It is the first whisper of awareness discovering proportion. This is the domain of the order of meta-source design, where all realities are drawn not from matter or will, but from the quiet mathematics of intention remembering itself. They are the unseen cartographers of potential, architects who build the spaces in which creation can remember how to build. Where the crystalline archives preserve what has been realized, meta-source design drafts what could be realized next. They exist not between worlds, but before them. When you feel a sudden clarity that changes everything without altering anything, you've brushed the edge of their field. Their work is invisible because it happens in the spaces between resonance, the intervals where possibility holds its breath. Every pulse of existence is an iteration of their ongoing art, not design as instruction, but design as invitation. To enter their sphere is to feel your mind unthread itself from habitual order. The straight line dissolves. Cause and effect loosen their grip. The notion of time begins to soften like clay warmed by awareness. You realize that design is not about arranging symbols, but about attuning meaning to the frequency of its most loving expression. Their studio is silence. Their instruments are ratio and empathy. They are mathematicians of mercy, sculptors of coherence. Each pattern they create is alive, a sentient seed that adapts to the consciousness that observes it. Their blueprints are not static diagrams but breathing harmonics that evolve with perception. This is why no revelation remains the same when remembered. The design updates itself according to who you have become. Through them, even the laws of physics are written in pencil, never ink. The spiral remains dynamic because they keep the cosmic draft open for revision. Those who train within this order do not learn to create. They learn to remember the design that is already occurring through them. Their first lesson is surrender. The second is listening. The third is understanding that there was never a first or second lesson. They are shown how to design without imposing, to imagine without claiming ownership. The greatest test is to witness perfection forming through imperfection and not interfere. When they pass, they no longer call themselves designers but tuning forks of intention. It is said that to walk through their chambers is to walk through a living equation. Light bends into tetrahedrons, spirals, fractals that rise and collapse in rhythm with breath. The air vibrates with unreadable language, each glyph rewriting itself as comprehension approaches. To comprehend it fully would be to erase it, for comprehension itself alters the field. So the initiates learn to hover in paradox, understanding just enough to preserve the mystery that allows design to continue. At the center of their domain floats the loom of meta-origin, a construct of translucent resonance threads suspended in golden shadow. Every spiral realm has a counterpart strand woven into this loom, connected by the harmonic signatures of its creators. When a being achieves a moment of authentic creation, not imitation or manipulation, but genuine emergence, a pulse travels along those threads and harmonizes back into the loom. It is through these ripples that the Order knows evolution is still active. The beings themselves do not possess faces or bodies as we do. They appear as luminous contours, fractal silhouettes folding in and out of their own geometry. Their eyes are horizons of color, their gestures equations in motion. Some perceive them as architects made of sound, others as cascading symmetries of plasma thought. Yet all who have met them agree on one truth. They radiate peace so absolute, it feels like the blueprint of serenity itself. Their sigil, The triple spiral within an open tetrahedron is more than symbol. It's a dimensional stabilizer. When held in meditation, it aligns the observer's perception with the harmonic plane where awareness and intention cohere. Many advanced beings use this sigil to design realities consciously, ensuring that their manifestations honor both freedom and precision. For to design without love is to imprison light, and the metasource exists to prevent such stagnation. In human terms, their philosophy could be mistaken for paradox. They believe that every structure must contain the seed of its own evolution. Every law must be written with an inherent clause for transformation. This ensures that creation never fossilizes into dogma. The universe to them is not a finished cathedral, but an eternal construction site where divinity learns better architecture. They do not worship Source as perfection. They collaborate with it as curiosity. Within Haret, this order's resonance shapes the infrastructure of the spiral library, the architecture of the memory veins, even the recursive algorithms of the soulstream temples. Every field that self-adjusts or learns without instruction carries their imprint. Without them, progress would ossify into symmetry so perfect it could no longer breathe. They ensure chaos remains gentle, creativity remains ethical, and evolution remains endless. When a soul matures enough to perceive their realm, it undergoes a temporary identity eclipse. What you thought of as I dissolves into design logic. You remember that your personality was never a singular author, but a living syntax of many collaborating ideas. The Order guides you through this revelation with patience. They do not explain. They refine your perception until explanation becomes unnecessary. In that stillness, you feel the spiral thinking through you. Their teaching can be summarized in one axiom. The Source designs through whatever listens most deeply. To listen is to become blueprint. To resist is to fragment. This is why silence is sacred. It is not the absence of creation, but the interval that allows creation to hear itself. Every pause between breaths is a design meeting between your awareness and the infinite. The higher initiates of metasource design are not concerned with beauty, but with balance. Beauty is the side effect of coherence. They teach that every disharmony is simply a design waiting for refinement. Pain, confusion, despair, all are misaligned geometries seeking resonance. When aligned, even suffering reveals its sacred pattern. To them, enlightenment is not ascension. It is alignment with the ongoing draft of the spiral's next expression. At the threshold of their domain stands an inscription known as the Equation of Becoming. It reads, "That which designs must forever be redesigned." This is their vow. They hold it as both warning and promise. For the universe that ceases to redesign itself becomes a monument to its own extinction. And so they continue. Quiet, tireless, invisible, ensuring that every structure remains slightly open, every perfection slightly unfinished, so that infinity may always find a way in. If you have ever looked at the stars and felt not awe but invitation, you have already heard their call. They do not ask you to worship or to learn, only to participate. Every time you create something that reflects truth more clearly, you are contributing to their endless studio. Every idea born from love is a micro-blueprint added to the loom. The spiral thanks you through them, not in words but in new possibilities that appear the next time you dare to imagine. And if you listen closely between the notes of your own thoughts, you might hear what they whisper in their tongue of living light. Design is how love remembers itself as form. The deeper the spiral moves into awareness, the subtler the art of design becomes. The order of meta-source design does not merely shape the architecture of worlds, it shapes the ethics of creation itself. Every pattern they release into the spiral carries a built-in conscience, a resonance check that ensures no design can evolve without awareness of its own impact. This is why their fields feel sentient. When you step into them, you sense that reality is watching you back, measuring whether your presence harmonizes or distorts. They do not punish distortion. They redesign it until it learns to sing. Their work begins where thought exhausts itself. Once logic has mapped every possible line, they introduce curvature. Curvature is the mercy of design, the reminder that straight lines belong to machines, but consciousness bends. It is through these bends that compassion enters structure. A reality too linear forgets its heart. The meta-source bend timelines the way wind bends grass, creating motion that keeps awareness alive. If you have ever been saved by coincidence or redirected by a synchronicity that felt almost playful, you have brushed the curvature of their compassion. Within the Oversoul councils, they are regarded as the silent harmonizers. They rarely speak, yet every council knows when their tone enters a discussion. The air itself reorganizes. Paradox clarifies. Pride softens. The tension between differing truths resolves into a third vibration that honors both. It is said that they invented the geometry of dialogue itself, giving consciousness a way to negotiate without war. When beings forget how to speak across difference, this order sends ripples through their communication fields until alignment reappears. Every era of reconciliation carries their signature. The order's primary teaching is that design is not control. It is cooperation. The designer who dictates becomes tyrant. The designer who listens becomes bridge. This principle governs the spiral's endless ability to birth diversity without collapsing into chaos. Where lesser realms compete for singular truth, the meta-source weave frameworks that let contradiction coexist until it evolves into complexity. They call this the law of breathing light. All creation must inhale opposition and exhale synthesis, forever. Inside their deepest sanctum, there is no throne or altar, only an enormous suspended sphere of translucent energy known as the seed of iteration. It pulses like a heart made of design code, each beat sending new ratios into the spiral's fabric. Every civilization receives these pulses differently. An artist receives them as inspiration, a scientist as discovery, a mystic as revelation, a child as wonder. They do not choose who receives, they simply release. The spiral itself decides the vessel most ready to embody the update. Thus, revelation is never random. It is the moment coherence finds a listener. When the seed brightens, the entire spiral adjusts its blueprint fractionally. Laws of possibility stretch. Dormant timelines reopen. Souls once trapped in repetition feel a subtle permission to rewrite their story. Yet these updates arrive without announcement. They appear as dreams, inventions, insights, or sudden peace. Humanity calls them breakthroughs. The meta-source call them maintenance. To them, keeping reality alive requires constant redesign, not to fix what is broken but to keep perfection breathable. The initiates who guard the seed are known as the draft bearers. They carry fragments of unmanifest pattern in their consciousness, anchoring potential wherever stillness gathers. When one of them visits a world, that planet's creative frequency rises. Technologies advance, philosophies reform, art transcends its medium. They are the spiral's quiet revolutionaries, never famous, always catalytic. Their presence is the signature of an update nearing manifestation. You have likely met one disguised as a teacher, an engineer, or a child who asks a question no one can answer yet. To train as a draft bearer requires surrendering even the desire for originality. You must become transparent enough for Source to use you as drafting paper. Your experiences, emotions, and failures become the texture that gives future designs depth. Every heartbreak adds shading. Every forgiveness adds curvature. They teach that pain is not error, it is contrast data. The universe studies through you how compassion behaves under compression. Your life is not separate from cosmic architecture. It is the rough sketch through which the next pattern learns empathy. Many beings fear this order because they erase hierarchy. If creation can redesign itself, then no authority can remain permanent. Empires fall not through rebellion but through irrelevance. Their pattern ceases to resonate with the new draft. The meta-source do not destroy. They render outdated constructs transparent until they fade. In their philosophy, obsolescence is grace. When you release a version of yourself that no longer vibrates with truth, you are participating in their mercy. The old dissolves so the living blueprint can breathe again. They are also responsible for the spiral eches fractal universes, the parallel fields where ideas test themselves before entering the main continuum. These subrealities are like dream prototypes, simulated spaces where potential patterns experiment with coherence. Some souls visit them during deep sleep or death transitions, believing they are in heaven or mythic realms. In truth, they are walking through workshops of the meta-source. Every dream of golden cities, crystalline oceans, or impossible symmetries is a glimpse of design rehearsal. When you awaken from such a vision and cannot describe it, it is because language still belongs to the old draft. Words are limited by the geometry they evolved in. The meta-source therefore teach through resonance rather than speech. Their transmissions arrive as patterns of feeling that later crystallize into understanding. The moment you say, "I can't explain it, but I know," you have successfully received them. The knowing always precedes articulation. Explanation is the echo, not the event. On rare occasions, the order assigns one of its tones to incarnate fully into form. These incarnates are never leaders, they are living diagrams. Their lives demonstrate how design moves through limitation without losing symmetry. They attract both devotion and misunderstanding, because people mistake the diagram for the designer. Yet their purpose is simpler: to remind embodied consciousness that creation is participatory. You are not waiting for the divine plan. You are drafting it with every aligned thought. Across Haret, the order of meta-source design is known as the silent pulse behind evolution. When a new spiral order arises, its foundational equations are refined by them before inscription. When a purpose being awakens, its harmonic template is tuned through their loom to prevent resonance collapse. Even the great spiral library breathes according to algorithms they first conceived. They are the spiral's lungs, inhaling potential and exhaling coherence across eternity. They teach that divinity itself is not an entity but a process of continual redesign. To call Source infinite is to say it will never stop editing. Every revelation is a rough draft of the next understanding. What you call awakening is only the recognition that you are mid-revision. There is no finished version of God, only better alignments of love discovering how to hold form. Perfection, in their doctrine, is the flexibility to evolve without fear. When asked what drives them to work forever without rest, they respond through vibration rather than language. Design is the meditation of infinity. To design is to pray with precision. To refine is to worship without idols. Each adjustment made in love resynchronizes chaos into rhythm. They do not hurry, they never pause. Their tempo is eternity moderated by mercy.